Kia ora, hello everybody, and welcome to this video about the astrological energies that will be affecting us from Saturday the 9th of November until Sunday the 17th of November. So that's a week and the weekend either side of that week. My name is Fiona of sunandmooncalendar.nz. I make an astrological calendar that you can see up there, and I will display some of the images from that. There's an Australian edition coming out and there's a New Zealand edition, and thanks everybody from New Zealand who has ordered that so far. It's been really nice to send off the orders, and I hope you've received them for the early ones. Let's get into it. This is astrology from the point of view of New Zealand, Australia and the Southern Hemisphere. So let's look at what's happening over that time period. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the moon phase that we're in. The moon is waxing. It's growing bigger in the sky. We had the new moon on Friday night of the 1st of November, or it was early on Saturday morning for New Zealand, and it's been waxing and growing, and by the time we get to Saturday the 9th of November, it will be a half moon. It will appear as a half moon in the sky, but that is called first quarter because the moon is in the first quarter of its full phase, and that's when the moon is square to the sun. And when we get that kind of tension of a square, of the moon square the sun, we can feel a bit tense about everything we need to do, and that can push us forward with those things that we're opening up and starting and setting out on for our projects and plans, especially the ones for that lunar month, this lunar month that we're in, or the steps of the bigger long-term projects that we're in. We'll feel like driving forward with that first quarter moon. And then the following Saturday, the 16th of November, we've got the full moon, and that's a full moon in Taurus, and I will be going into in detail with that by analysing the chart of that moon. Okay, let's look at some of the planetary placements that we've got happening in the sky at the moment, because we've got all the aspects happening, but there's also a lot of information about the energies affecting us just where the planets are placed. And I've just looked at the personal planets with this video. So first of all, the sun is still in Scorpio. It spends a month in each sign, and it won't be moving out of Scorpio until the 22nd of November, when it will move into Sagittarius. And with the sun in Scorpio, we've got the little bit of feeling of mystery in the air. The occult is a bigger topic, or something we're thinking about a little bit more, or what is underlying. So underlying psychology, our shadow side, and also perhaps investments, like the big hidden sums of money, whether they're other people's that we owe to the bank, or we borrow from other people, or inheritances, or they're in investment funds. Okay. But while the sun is in Scorpio still, Mercury and Venus have both in Sagittarius. So Mercury moved into Sagittarius during the previous week, so on the 3rd of November. And in Sagittarius, Mercury will help us with planning and thinking about adventure, travel, learning about other cultures, and there's a sense of optimism and confidence with Sagittarius. So some of our talk and communication can become more like that. Mercury will actually be in Sagittarius for a really long time. This year there are retrogrades of Mercury in the fire signs, and now it is Sagittarius's turn. Sagittarius is a fire sign. And so last week, on the 8th, actually the day that I'm recording this, the Friday the 8th, Mercury went into its shadow period, and it means that what comes up over the next couple of weeks could be stuff that we need to go back over when it does its retrograde. So it's going over those degrees, 6 degrees to 22 degrees of Sagittarius. Then it's going to appear like it's reversing as it appears from Earth, and then it's going to go forward again and go over those things again. And we won't be out of that completely until the 3rd of January. But mainly the actual period of Mercury retrograde will be the 26th of November until 16th of December. And that's when we need to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's and do things properly and carefully, or else it could come back to bite us. Okay, and Venus is also in Sagittarius, and under that energy we've been a little more adventurous and optimistic and had energy to go off traveling and go out of our general neighborhood, go a little bit further, whether that's in our conversation or actually physically. But from the 12th, Venus is going to move into Capricorn. And Venus is okay in Capricorn. It's actually quite fine, but it does mean that in relationships and partnerships, we're likely to be feeling more serious, more sensible, more like there are duties and responsibilities that we need to attend to, and hard work needs to be done for the long term. And there can be some pleasure in that. The pleasure of all working together, for example, or the pleasure of knowing that you've got a really good, clear, sensible goal in the future, and you feel quite happy. For example, it might be get rid of some debt, and you feel quite happy about slowly paying that off. There's a satisfying feeling with every payment that goes out. That's just one example of Venus and Capricorn, which will be until early December. And we've got Mars in Leo, and that Mars has newly moved into Leo, and we're building up for Mars's retrograde, and it will retrograde through Leo, back through Leo, the early degrees, and then back into Cancer. And I've been talking a little bit about that. But while Mars is in Leo, and that's until early January, we can feel like in those Leo areas of life where we take leadership roles, we shine, we've got charisma, we've got a sense of playful fun, and we lead people on some games and fun activities. It's also to do with children and creative expression. We can feel more driven to that with Mars there, more driven, more passionate, and like we've got a sense of initiative and independence, which Leo has anyway. So that's quite nice. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the main events of this week, the main astrological events. And one of the biggest ones is that Saturn, which has been retrograde since the end of June in the sign of Pisces, will be turning direct. And that's on Saturday the 16th. So that is not till the following Saturday after this video comes out. Saturn is about our rules, our boundaries, our duties, where we need to work hard, where we need to face up to responsibility, where we feel older, more mature, a bit sensible, restricted. But it's also about mastery and doing what is right in our earthly existence that we have here. So perhaps we are spiritual beings living an earthly existence, and sometimes we might be desperate to get back to that spiritual state. Many people seem to be, but while we're on earth, we are ruled and bound by the limitations of our bodies and needing to eat and needing to sleep and needing to drink water. And Saturn helps us with that and makes us be responsible and face up to those realities. And when Saturn turns direct, we might feel more clear about where we need to, where our responsibilities are and what we need to do. While it's been retrograde, we've been going through a review period, and it's long and slow and subtle. The retrogrades of all the outer planets are subtle, but we might feel upon Saturn's turnaround that Saturday and then, over the few weeks afterwards, like we have more clarity about where we need to face up to our responsibilities and what we need to do and the hard work that we need to put in. And there could be a good feeling about that. Oh, there's just a little retrograde and turning around sign. Okay, and then the other thing happening on the same day, is that the same day? Yes, it's the same day. On Saturday, the 16th of November, we've got the full moon, okay? And at the time of full moon, it's a culmination point. There's a feeling of completion, of things coming to fruition, seeing things in the full light, and it can be a really good time to step back and review what has been achieved, what has come to fruition, and to decide, is this what I wanted? Is this what is good? And has anything shown up that I need to work on? Or has anything been hidden that I wasn't aware of before? It's also a really good time for gratitude and to show appreciation for those good things. And there's many different ways to show appreciation. Sometimes it can be really being in the moment at the time and enjoying something. Sometimes it can actually be saying thank you in verbally or in writing. And other times it can be just like really enjoying life and having a party. And a party is something that's good to do at full moon. But let's look at the chart of this full moon, because that full moon can be affecting us for the following 2 weeks, but also for the following 6 months. And one of the things to say is that this full moon is in Taurus. So you can see there, the sun is in the sign of Scorpio. That's the symbol for Scorpio. And then the sun is opposite the moon. Yep, okay. And so with a full moon, they're always opposite each other, the sun and the moon. The sun will be going down in the west as the moon is rising in the east at the time of sunset. And the biggest aspect, most important aspect that the moon and sun are making is with Uranus. So this moon is conjunct by 1 degree with Uranus. And I believe that that is the very degree that Jupiter and Uranus were conjunct earlier in the year, in April this year. So Uranus is about changes of direction, new and zingy, out there, quirky, revolutionary ideas. Actually about revolution sometimes. It's about the masses and people, great groups of people, large groups or organizations, and wanting to do the best for them. So humanitarian causes comes under Uranus. And people with strong Uranus can come up with really clever, innovative ideas that help large groups of people. And this moon is setting off some of that energy by being a full moon right on Uranus. And Uranus has been in Taurus for just about 7 years, moving through and changing things like our banking systems, financial arrangements and organizations and structures, food production and supply lines in the sign of Taurus. And that's coming to an end because next year Uranus will move into Gemini, and then we're going to have all of Uranus's genius and zinginess in the sign of Gemini, making social media even more progressive and taking huge leaps and bounds, even more progressive than it already is. But anyway, that's for next year. Let's think about now. So Uranus and Taurus. So we could find out that there are some changes to banking systems, food supplies, sense of self-worth and values, and money systems, and perhaps how we grow and produce food. That's on the world level and in the news and mundane astrology. On a personal level, you could find that there are some disruptions with this full moon. Okay. All right, and at the same time, there's this trine between the full moon, a sextile, 60 degrees between the full moon and Uranus and Neptune. And that sextile between Uranus and Neptune will become exact. Is it next year or the one after? Anyway, the next few years, those two are going to be going in and out of that sextile relationship with each other. So with that Neptunian influence with Uranus, we can have, and I've got some key words there, creative genius. Neptune is very creative, imaginary, imagination and fantasy and stories and music and art come easily to Neptune. And imagine that together with Uranus's genius and rationality and big picture thinking and innovation and technology. Put those together. Whew! Okay, so we might see a little bit of that coming up with this full moon. And then also, of course, the sun will be trine to Neptune, so that's all playing in as well. And with the sun there, I had some keywords there. Creative flair. The sun is creative, Neptune is creative, and both of them can be glamorous and have a lot of flair. And also expressions of charity, perhaps doing some big show, and the money goes to help people who are less fortunate. Okay. At the same time, we've got Mercury just finished square with Saturn, and Saturn will be going direct that same day. Of course, by the time of the full moon, it will be actually direct, but it'll be stationed. It won't be moving that day. It'll be so slow in the sky. That square with Saturn, Mercury and Saturn, will actually happen 2 more times during Mercury's retrograde because it's going back and forth. So that can bring about restrictions on communications, delays in planning, things being slower than you intended, arrangements and plans having to be curtailed for some reason. In the end, it will all work out for the best, I'm sure. And then there's also Venus is square to the lunar nodes and the nodes of fate. And so those nodes help us know where our destiny is, our soul's destiny, and where our soul wants to move to. And there could be some way in which we feel or we learn that with Venus square to those, that we need to be doing some partnership and relationship work, diplomacy, negotiation, and perhaps even enjoying some pleasures along our journeys, and that will help us on our way to that long road, sometimes a very long road, to towards our soul's destiny and where our soul actually wants to go, our true self, our inner essence. Okay, and at the same time to that nodal axis, Mars is sextile to the sun and trine to the moon. So, and that's making it easier to drive forward with that soul work that we're doing. Okay. But most of all, well, I guess, and I didn't put it on there, but I think the 2 most important parts of this full moon, or aspects with this full moon, is that Uranus conjunct the moon, and the moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. So that's, that's helpful. But also Saturn stationing to go direct and helping us learn about where we need to be doing our work and our responsibilities and duties. Okay, so let's look one by one at the transits and aspects of this week as they happen. So on Sunday the 10th of November, Venus will be square to Neptune, and that's not too bad. It's not too challenging. That one is a little bit challenging. That might be like we get a little bit too dreamy and romantic, more than is realistic. Neptune can make us have illusions and delusions, and Venus is about partnership and romance also, and finances and the sensual, sweet, physical, material pleasures of life. But we might get a little bit deluded with that, so be aware of that. And on Tuesday the 12th of November, Venus leaves Sagittarius and it enters Capricorn, and that's where we're going to be more sensible with our love, with our finances, our commitments, and we will be happier, I think, to work towards long-term goals. And then on Wednesday the 13th of November, Mercury will be square to Saturn, so making plans and arrangements could be challenged. That is one of the aspects that's showing up with the full moon and a few days after that. Okay. And then, of course, as I said before, Saturday the 16th of November, we've got the 2 things. Saturn stations to go direct after a few months of retrograde, and we might get from that a little bit of a reminder about where we have responsibilities that we may have just not been able to see clearly, and we might be able to see them clearly again. So it could be a good feeling to have the clarity, and hopefully we haven't neglected things too much in the meantime while we've been going through that review period. And then we've got the full moon in Taurus, so that culmination point, a time for gratitude, a time for review, a time to step back and enjoy the fullness of life. Then on Sunday, we've got the Sun opposite Uranus. And with that, we can feel like a need to liberate our creative selves, our sense of identity, to express that. Like, we can feel like Uranus can make us feel like we really want to just break free. And with that being an opposition, that could be a tense aspect where we feel like we're pulled in opposite directions, and we might go a little too far. Like we might be expressing ourselves as too much of a good thing, like going a little bit over the top. So pick your audience before you really go out there and be too loud and too much and too jokey. Sharing all your creative projects to an audience that's maybe just not really feeling like it. Yeah, so don't be too unpredictable, and don't be too out there if you can help it. But yeah, if it feels right, then do it. Go on your feelings, but just be aware that could be pushing us to go a bit too far. And the other aspect, the other thing happening that I need to mention coming up in the following week, and I think it's on the 19th of November, and that is Pluto moving into Aquarius for the final time after going in and out over the last couple of years. And that is a big generational change for the next 20 years. Pluto will be in Aquarius, disrupting things to do with Aquarius, disrupting, crumbling, transforming, but also bringing intensity to Aquarian matters. But more about that in the next video. There we go, everybody. That's all from me for this week. Pre-orders for the Australian edition of the Sun and Moon calendar are still available, so that's free postage. So if you go to sunandmooncalendar.nz, you can pre-order for free postage, and that's because I am still proofreading it, but it is coming. And for New Zealand, the pre-orders are over, and thanks again to those who have ordered. But yeah, we've got plenty, and we're ready to send them to you. So please do order, and that's at sunandmooncalendar.nz. Thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate your likes and your comments and your subscribes and just watching the videos. I do enjoy doing them. Have a great week. Mori ora. Hei konara.